Practice by Sideline Sports Network. Appreciate y'all coming and watching or listening, whichever one that you're doing. This episode is brought to you by Game Day Vodka, as all the other episodes before this one. Game Day Vodka is an American made vodka, an American sold vodka, and they are the official vodka for 9 NFL teams and 8 college football programs, Florida State being one of those, the Jacksonville Jaguars being another one of those as far as NFL goes. They're also becoming the official vodka for the NBA, certain teams there, and also for the NHL. So they're rapidly growing. They're also sold in ABC Wine and Spirits, which is a sponsor of the gentleman to the right of me for his show, and that's Den Media. He's got multiple shows, but everybody knows James very well, and y'all know what shows he's got going. But if you are new and you don't, make sure you look up his YouTube. And James, your YouTube is Den Media, correct?
Yeah, Den Media Group.
Den Media Group. So go look his channel up because he's got where he covers some stuff from the Jacksonville Jaguars, but then he's got the main show that I like watching is where he kind of covers top topics that are going on around our country and in the base of what's going on. And he covers sports, but he also covers pop culture, things that are going on there. They're really cool. So make sure that you go and give that a listen. He does it 3 days a week when he can. Usually you can catch him going live. But instead of trying to remember all this, if you go subscribe to his channel and you hit the notification bell at the top, every time that he goes live, you won't have to wonder when he's going live or wonder what is the next time he's going to do a show. You can just have it automatic and you can watch it right then. He's also a big tailgate event throwing person as well, because we just threw one for the Cheez-It Bowl with Florida State and Oklahoma, which was a much closer game than people anticipated. But the tailgate was absolutely amazing. We also had C.J. Wilson. He's from Roll Up Network. Most people are very well introduced to C.J. They pretty much know what he does and all of his works because he does a really good job. But he was going to be on tonight to talk as well. Some different things happened. He couldn't make it. And my other two co-hosts are also busy. So me and James are going to keep y'all entertained for tonight, talking about Florida State, the things that have changed, the things that could be changing, and the things that we think should potentially change. Obviously, this past week there was a bit of a surprise that happened with Treshaun Ward entering the transfer portal. I personally didn't want to see it happen. I knew it was a possibility because a lot of people were talking about it, but y'all might be like me. There's certain ones that I'm emotionally invested into. Trayshawn's one of them because of his story and everything that he's overcome to become a scholarship player here at Florida State. I really wanted to see him finish his college career at Florida State, but he has to make a business decision on what's best for him to make it to the next level. And he feels like that requires for him to have more play time, stuff to that nature. He wants to be the true number one running back. And as y'all know, Norvell utilizes his running backs in a very unique way, a way so much that I really enjoy it, and most fans do. I like seeing all the different running backs in the different ways and different talents that they have. But I can also understand where Trayshawn's coming from with this is his last year. He really wants to showcase all of his talents, and he might need more carries than what he's getting at Florida State to showcase that. So I wish Trayshawn all of the best wherever he goes, and whoever gets will be getting a great running back and a great young man. Definitely won't be outworked by anyone because he came from the walk-on situation up to being a scholarship running back at Florida State. So whoever gets him will be getting a great young man. And I love seeing Coach Norvell and other teammates write about their teammates if they do leave, like Amari Gaynor when he left. The athletic director, the coaches wrote about him. Same thing with Treshaun Ward. So it's not that Florida State's not trying to keep these guys, and it's not that Norvell needs to be fired because this guy's deciding to leave. That really blew my mind when I saw that, because when one kid decides he's going to go elsewhere, I see a whole group about firing Mike Norvell. I don't understand that exactly, but James, what are your thoughts on? Obviously, Norvell wants to keep Trayshawn if he can, but obviously, if Trayshawn's pleading a good enough case that it makes sense for him to go elsewhere, he's just going to be supported, because you don't want to try to hold someone hostage to against what they want to do or what they think they need to do, right?
Right. You can't force somebody to play. It's kind of one of the things that is a parallel to recruiting as well as coaching. It's a relationship. It is a relationship that's not, and it becomes your family because you made a choice. Multiple parties, more like dating. People say best recruiters have game. They've got beautiful wives. They're able to talk really, really fine women into doing whatever. But when you think about it like this, you can never force somebody to be in a relationship with you because it will never work. And if Trayshawn feels that he needs to get something else, then this is what he needs to do. And I can 100% understand it. I mean, you're a guy who is going into your last year. You have tremendous success. You're a really, really good running back, but you're already in a situation in a backfield where you're going to have to split carries. But now you're no longer getting the lion's share of those carries. It's probably going to be about 55 to 60% going to one guy, then everybody else sharing the rest of it, and you have to play a role. And I can see that not being as appealing when you've worked as hard as you've worked as Trayshawn is doing. Trayshawn's character is immaculate. I think he is. This is why I always tell people, be careful about saying guys are running away from competition. This is a kid who could have went to the University of Maryland, could have went to a bunch of other different Power 5 schools, but chose to walk on to Florida State University. He chose to make sure he got his degree. His mom is a very, very, very. I love young men who honor their mothers, and he's one of those guys. Never been in trouble. Always done the right thing. And right now, this is just a business decision. Would I've loved to see him stick it out? Yes, I think he could have gotten everything that he wanted to get from Florida State. But at the same time, I'm not in his position, and it's nothing wrong with exploring your options. But he will be missed because I do think he was a great compliment to Trey Benson, as we saw in the Oklahoma game. In the Oklahoma game, that sometimes Trey is puts his head down and doesn't have the greatest vision. And it doesn't really work like that sometimes when they're hell bent on stopping the run. But you were able to see Trayshawn was able to squeeze through and get some things because he's got better vision. But that's also why Jay Trav threw for over 400, because they were hell bent on stopping the run. So that's the other beautiful side of it. So, much luck to him. And I do think it speaks volumes for what Jordan Travis was able to say about him, what Mike Norvell continues to say about him, and even what, talking to his high school coach was a friend of mine, Jason Roberts, from Tampa Bay Tech. Shout out to the Titans. It's just I've known of him since his recruitment. When Jason when I did a camp, and Jason said, "Hey man, I need you to watch out for this 3-star right here."
Yeah, again, what James is adding, to being a former player at Florida State and going through the process of, James was thrown in really early to start at Florida State, so he knows what it's like to be thrown to the wolves. He also knows what it's like when someone's always trying to take your job. Every guy that comes in behind you is trying to take your job. And it's not that Trey or anybody's, coming to just take his job completely, but it's the fact of, he wants to be the number one running back. He wants to be in a more traditional set at running back than what Mike Norvell puts it at, because he utilizes the running back so differently from other people that it's hard, because again, we want him here, but it doesn't bring any merit to wanting to fire any coach because a young man's deciding to go elsewhere and extend his career in a different way. Also, Ontario, aka Pokey Wilson, has declared to the NFL draft. Obviously, that's great news for him. Really excited for him to be able to start that journey in his life. Also, Jamie Robinson has declared to go to the NFL draft. make sure you go and subscribe to Jamie Robinson's YouTube page because he put his trip in a really cool way. He filmed it leaving Tallahassee, going to Phoenix, Arizona. Um, and if you want to know why he's in Phoenix, Arizona, go watch the episode that he just put out so you can understand what he's doing. It's really cool that he's putting this on film. He just started his YouTube page and he's already doing a really good job. So make sure that you go check him out. And a lot of guys, and I don't know this young man's name, but we had another walk-on transfer earlier this season. He wasn't able to play this year because he wasn't eligible to. But the gentleman that came from Penn State, he's a running back that
Keziah.
Yes. So he transferred to Florida State, and a lot of people started asking me, is that the reason why Trayshawn's leaving? And the answer to your question is no, that is not why he's leaving. And no, it's not because Rodney Hill in his true freshman year showed capable and abilities to be a good running back at Florida State. It's not because of any particular running back that Trayshawn's deciding to leave. It's the system that Norvell runs is the reason why Trayshawn's deciding to move on. It's really particular to, Mike Norvell's system on offense. A lot of people call it an RPO system, but it's Mike Norvell's RPO system. It's very different from other RPO systems that you see across the country because Wake Forest runs a RPO that's called an extended mesh, which means that they hold the ball for a good 3.5 seconds with the running back just standing there, and both of these guys have their hands on the football, and it seems like it's forever before something happens, but their offensive line does a hell of a job and keeps guys back because they have a tremendous amount of time to decide what they're going to do. That's not what we do at Florida State. That's not Mike Norvell's RPO system. So with that said, obviously you saw the news, and we also talked about this news in Monday's episode that Marcus Woodson has moved on to Arkansas. And I had thought that he was taking a lateral position as being a DB coach at Arkansas. And he very well could be, and then he's just getting a title. Or he could be the actual defensive coordinator at Arkansas. But my thoughts are is he's getting a title, and he's going to be the DB coach at Arkansas. I believe we had every capability of keeping Marcus Woodson here at Florida State if we wanted to. I don't believe that Coach Norvell and the administration wanted to keep Marcus Woodson, because if they wanted to, they would have offered him an extension in his contract, and to my knowledge, that was not offered. So he moved on to Arkansas, which we talk about this a lot. Norvell doesn't have to fire people. He gets to let them move on to another job and then move someone into the position. Another coach that I want people to keep their eyes on that I think could potentially leave is the tight end coach, Chris Thompson.
Awesome.
I believe that it's very possible that he goes to ASU where Kenny Dillingham is, because Kenny's young himself. He's also got a couple of young staff members. It might be time for him to bring in an older guy. And him coaching with Kenny and knowing him very well is a good fit for a first-year coach. Now, will Chris go over there and be a tight end coach, or will he go over there and be more? That I don't know, but I think it's potential that he could move on and he could be at ASU, and then you're looking for another guy to replace the tight ends coach. And that might be also within what you already have, because you do have capable coaches that are already on the staff that are in a different position that you could move up. Tight ends coach, I would say you're okay to move someone up. Me personally, when it comes to the DB situation, I would really, really prefer that Florida State hire from without. I want them to hire someone on a different staff or non on a staff, but could be a really good DB coach. James had actually talked to Crow after we had our episode, and Crow, I guess, was enthused with everybody's opinion of him, and That's as far as I'm going with that. He was very surprised that some people didn't like him in the matters of because of whatever decisions he made at 18 years old. But Crow would really fit Florida State system very well, whether he was a DB coach or if he's an off the field guy to be groomed to be a DB coach in the future. However that looks, Crow is someone I think Florida State needs to hire due to his ability to bring young talent here. And James made a really good point that the mistakes that you make throughout your life as a man, like maybe Crow did make some mistakes, as we all have, and we all will continue to make mistakes. But wouldn't you want that man giving your young man, especially if he's fixed it, that giving your young man or your son the do's and don'ts to not get in this situation? You do this and you don't do that because you end up in a situation that you might not want to be in. Um, Look, man, if we can't look at people and see that they grow, or we can't believe that people better themselves as they get older, then we're closed minded. And I can promise you this: there's not a coach, including Mike Norvell, that's on the staff that has not made a mistake. That someone would not go, "Hey, that's a pretty substantial mistake. I don't like that." I'm pretty sure that if you turn the finger around and point at yourself, there's some mistake that you've made that you probably don't want everybody knowing, or that you regret yourself. But the question is how did you respond to the mistake? Did you grow from it? Did you learn from it? Did you stop making that mistake? Because that means that you grew as a human, in my opinion, and you became a better person. So I personally think that Crow needs to be on staff regardless of where. I think he'd be a good fit for Florida State. But we do look like we're after the gentleman from South Carolina pretty heavily, and that's Gray. I don't know what his first name is, but his name's Gray. I know that much.
Torian, I think.
Yeah. So
I actually wouldn't mind doing that because it just makes I like a new passion of mine is making South Carolina fans upset.
Yes.
Because it seems like we just look like we just shop at South Carolina. Like we go there and say, it looks good. Let me get that over here. That would be just another just jab at them to go get Torian Gray. That would be awesome.
Yes. And we have quite a few South Carolina fans. If you're on Twitter or Instagram, they're kind of upset because we're looking at South Carolina like our developmental school. They're developing talent for us, and we come and get them when they're ready to move up to Florida State. A lot of fans are pissed off about that at South Carolina, but the truth hurts sometimes. We are extremely nitpicking who we want from South Carolina, and it seems to be working very well so far.
I mean, listen, is it – let me just – because I want to talk about the cornerback position coach again. So let's talk about tampering, guys. I don't know what people really understand about all of this stuff that's going on, but these kids talk. So when I came out, there was like I had one friend in my whole high school who had a cell phone. Like when I was a senior in high school. The internet was new. War Chant had, like, I believe, just started. Matter of fact, War Chant wrote an article. It was one of the biggest lies I've ever seen. Like they put that I was 6'4", like 256-pound defensive end. I was like, man, if I was that, holy crap. I'm going to the league. I was like, I definitely wasn't that, but they post stuff like that. And I could only get the internet, consistent internet, when I was at school for my internet technology class. And that's because of the school that I was at that had that. Most people probably couldn't get it unless you went to the library, the public library. We had dial-up, AOL. I don't know if you guys remember, you get that CD and they'll give you like 20 hours or something like that. And you just keep, trying to go, oh man, geez. I don't even know how we had that kind of patience. But now these kids have internet. They've got cell phones. They've got Snip Snap, TikTok, all these different things to communicate with each other. They don't stop talking to each other. Like, if you guys don't think like when, maybe a kid went to Maryland, he didn't say, hey, that's great over here in Maryland. We're living our best life, living La Vida Loca. You should come too. If you don't think that's not technically tampering. They're basically sharing information. So if a Jazz comes, Fabian comes, Jamie comes, if you want to know the biggest recruiting for Florida State for anybody from South Carolina, is Jaheim Bell's first picture Instagram post of his apartment. I'm jealous of that apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Like he looked like he living. So like that's the tampering is, yo, bro, I know you hit that portal, bro. We down here in Tallahassee doing something crazy. So like I know you need to come check us out. We got a spot for you. I'll talk to him for you. And that's just kind of the way that goes. But I will give them, it does seem like every time a kid hits the portal from South Carolina, the first place they visit is Tallahassee, Florida. So, or the
Yes.
first call they make is Tallahassee, Florida. So I can get that. But an interesting name that I was chatting with some of my guys who know coaches. And there's a push to promote from within. There's a push to help one coach who's aspiring to become a head coach somewhere. To let him start learning how to develop and identify talent that he would like to work with or against. But then there's another guy who's been at numerous stops, who's not only coached a young man, but also helped that young man get his foot in the door with coaching. And I think this would be a phenomenal check of the box of a lot of the different things. He's got on-field coaching experience. He's got recruiting, director of recruiting experience. He's got everything he's young. He's a former NFL player. He knows the Miami, South Florida area very, very well. He understands the rivalries that we're going to play in and what it may entail. And that would be DeMarcus Van Dyke, the cornerbacks coach at the University of Miami. I'd argue that fans, you like your lying ass Cubans a lot more than everybody else likes your lying ass Cubans. So I think if a good deal is broached, you could probably get a bidding war, but I think it's a situation where a guy's looking for the opportunity to, no pun intended, climb.
Mm-hmm.
And what better way to go to a staff where we're poised to at least play for the conference championship next year. You've seen a guy, Dillingham, he's a head coach somewhere. You know that there's probably going to be 1 or 2 guys on this staff who are going to leave in the next year or two, and there's going to be more opportunities for you. And if you come here and the secondary, in particular the cornerbacks, play exponentially better, you're going to be seen as the next rising star. So down in Miami, a lot of other things have to go right. Whereas here, I think that would be a crazy fit. Who knows how it will go? I know Randy Shannon. I don't know how much pull Randy has, but I do know there's that relationship there. I would love to see DeMarcus wear some garnet and gold.
I personally never thought about Van Dyke coming to Tallahassee, but I agree. If we hire DeMarcus Van Dyke here at Florida State as the next DB coach, that would be checking off a lot of boxes. One, his ability to develop. 2, his ability to recruit in the state of Florida alone, especially South Florida, where a lot of the dogs come from anyway. That would check a lot of boxes. I really like that name's getting thrown in here. Hopefully, Florida State's got that on their agenda to speak to DeMarcus, because I do believe that would be that's at least a triple. I don't know if that's a home run hire, but that's a triple in my book. I think that's a damn good one.
And it'll make sure Kamani McLean doesn't go to Miami.
Right.
So he'll go somewhere else. So that'd be a double win right there.
Yeah, that's taking out 2 birds with 1 stone. And that would be awesome. There's been a lot of conversations around what does Florida State do with the transfer portal? What is Mike Norvell doing with attacking the transfer portal as much as he does in these couple of years that he's been here at Florida State? And that it is or that it isn't sustainable. Right now, I will tell you to flip a roster the way that he needed to the year one coming in year two, still needing to get rid of whom doesn't need to be here anymore. The transfer portal was a godsend, and we needed it. We needed to be able to go and pick those guys out of the portal. We needed to be able to get those portal players in here that fit the system so that we could go get a 10-win season as we did for the 2022 season, so that now you have proof of concept of what you're doing. Now the process of the climb looks like it works. Now that you can say that it does work because you won 10 ball games, for people to say that it's not sustainable, I can't say that it is or that it isn't, because this is so new. The way that the portal is being used, will the portal stay this way? I don't know. If it does, then it could be it could be the way of college football for a long time. Do I think we need to recruit better? These two things can be true at the same time. That the portal will sustain some things and you can use it for years to come, and that you need to recruit better in the high school class because you're not doing as well as you should. Both of those can be true at the same time. You can't sit here and say, I seen one post where a guy said, well, I don't see Kirby Smart and I don't see Nick Saban flipping an entire team or pulling in 8 to 10 players out of the transfer portal. So you're not going to tell me that Mike Norvell is smarter than they are. Well, now you're comparing apples and oranges. Those aren't anything alike. You can't compare where Florida State was compared to where Alabama has been for the past 15 years, or at least 10. You can't compare what Kirby Smart's done. Let me explain this. The program that Kirby Smart took over versus the program that Mike Norvell took over is a night and day difference. There is no comparisons. Georgia has been building a program for the last 15, 16 years with who they had over there at head coach. Kirby Smart moving into place was a plug and play. Kirby being where he was once at Florida State, so everybody knows. He moves on and coaches underneath. I'm not saying he didn't go anywhere in between this, but he goes to Alabama and coaches under Nick Saban for quite a while. And then he becomes the head football coach at Georgia after Georgia has been building and building and building. Georgia has not, before their first national championship in God knows how long, they have not been relevant for 15 years-ish. Were they always a decent team? Could they always give Florida a run for their money? Potentially, and most of the time, but they could never get over that hump. Mark Richt was a great coach, but he could never get them to the national championship. So it doesn't mean that they were a bad team or it was a bad program. It just means it wasn't a championship program. What Norvell came and took over at Florida State was a literal mess. Our administration above him wasn't in the right spot. We didn't have an athletic director that knew what they were doing. Then we got a guy that took the position just to help out as Norvell was here his first year. And I think it was Coleman, or however you say his name. He was never an athletic director. He admitted that multiple times, that he was just in place, basically like an interim AD until we got somebody. Georgia didn't have any of those problems when Kirby Smart came to Georgia. Those weren't problems. Their administration was set. Their ADs were set. The program was set. It was ready to turnkey and go. Kirby is a great recruiter. He's doing a great job there. But y'all don't think that Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, or any of the other people. I will say that Clemson's a little bit on the weird side of the transfer portal. They don't pull a lot of people from the transfer portal. But Nick Saban has pulled people from the transfer portal. Kirby Smart has pulled people from the transfer portal. Not as many as Mike Norvell. But Ohio State, who was just in the college football playoffs, they pulled quite a few from the portal last year. And
TCU.
TCU has 8 starters on defense. that are from the transfer portal. And they were in the college football playoffs. Now they're going to play for a national championship.
What I think is the issue is that, and I'll take some blame for this. And I want to blame my dear colleague and friend Josh Newberg as well. I'm going to blame Silk. I'm going to blame a lot of guys. Big Three, Twitter, and the culture in which we've all established over the last 5 years has been one of, and just society in general, has been one of trolling as opposed to substance. And there's a time and a place for all of it. But as we all expound on our careers, we have to at least be able to make functional assessments. The sustainability question. How do you know if something is sustainable or not sustainable when this has literally only been around for 2 years? I'll use it. Another very new system that's been in place that I remember a lot of people had a lot of critiques for in 2 years and asked if it was sustainable was the early signing period. Everybody hated it in the beginning. Now it's a factored piece. It's something that people adjust for. The market adjusts itself. It's one of our principles of capitalism. One of the things that you're supposed to learn all through high school. You have to give the market an opportunity to adjust. And a lot of the stuff is fabrication and lies that are so easily looked up. Same thing with NIL. It's amazing. Chris, I've been telling people this since, for whoever will listen. These deals aren't anywhere near as big as what you guys think. It's not. It doesn't make sense. And now people are writing articles, and now kids are like, nah, I ain't getting paid $3 million. I got this, but I didn't get that. Coaches are putting these kids in the portal, and it's because there's no APR. Now, forget the portal. It's always been, well, transfers have always happened. The transfer portal is just a more upfront way for you to be able to see it. Now, we can't compare Kirby, a lot of the old guard, because they were able to build their foundation through the old rules, where it was, I have 4 to 5 years to build a program before I really see the heat, where I could go bring in a top 5 recruiting class every year, and we're going to spend the money in recruiting. We're going to spend the money making sure we wine and dine these guys the right way, making sure we develop these guys. You talked about infrastructure. Florida State finally has the infrastructure in place, but I would always argue, and nobody, including my man Sam, shout out to Listen Up Podcast, congrats for getting over 1,000 subscribers. Nobody can argue this to me. What is the difference between me bringing in Gilbert Davis, I believe is his name, right, from South Carolina?
Mm-hmm.
He has 3 years left to play. What's the difference between me bringing him and another 3-star defensive end? Because I'm going to tell you how Florida State could have had easily had the number 10 or 11 class in the nation. They'd have just filled it with 3 stars. But what's the difference between getting a guy out of high school that needs to develop, needs to eat, needs to do this, and getting a guy from a Power 5 program that's already been a year or two in it, that has 3 years to play? If he goes and does what he needs to do in 2 years, he's bouncing great. That's the same thing that the high school kid would have done. Most high school kids don't play their freshman year. And if they ball out their sophomore year, they're looking to leave their junior. You are literally doing the exact same thing. It's just it's like people who say I'll never buy a new car. I always buy it used with a few miles on it. It's using the system, because so sustainability, we don't know. But I do know this: if you can't tell me the difference between getting 2 and 3 year players, that's Mike Norvell's strategy. There are the Fisk of the world. There are the Jazz Turntimes in the last class. There are the Colorado transfer, I believe, only has 1 year. But there are a few of those. But for every one of those, you've got the UNLV offensive line. I think it's UNLV, not UNLV. The UTEP offensive lineman who's literally got 3 years. Keandre Jones from Auburn, who's got 3 years. You've got all of these guys who literally are coming in, and you can develop them in your program, in your system, the way that you want to. It's what happens in the NFL. And this is, I guess, for me, I have to always remember that I cover college and the NFL. So in the NFL, you have your recruiters, which is basically your scouting department. So they scout college. But then you have your player personnel guy. They scout your roster and other people's rosters to find out what fits would be. So in free agency, you can go and grab these guys. That's literally all this is. And you know what you have, and Mike Norvell has that most people don't? You have a director of football operations who served on the NFL franchise for years. You've got Fry, who was doing this up, I think that's how you say his name, Frey. I apologize. I've never met you before, so whatever. But who's been up at Oregon, was at Oregon State, was doing this thing there. It's working. You have Jared Verse is probably going to come back. You got Fabian Lovett who's going to come back. Again, like, let's just talk about this. Fabian Lovett's been here for, this is year 3. Jamie Robinson was here for 2 years. Jared Verse will probably be here for 2. Minimum 2, could be here for 3 because he doesn't have to leave after next year. Johnny Wilson will be here for 2, could be 3 because guess what? He doesn't have to leave after next year. Jaheim Bell is here for 1, probably 2 because guess what? He doesn't have to leave after next year. Murlock doesn't have to leave after next year. All these, Trey Benson, it will be here for 2, could be 3 because guess what? He doesn't have to leave after next year. Offense is just so many guys that just completely spit in the face of your argument, and it's just lazy. And what happens is you don't like it because we are not getting the top 10 class. You can't brag or troll like you want to because we don't have it and they do, but you just beat the dog. You put up 40 points on both of your rivals. One of them only scored 3 points. Have some pride is what I'm saying to our fan base. Have some pride.
Well, the way that and I agree, the way that I see it is you can't say something doesn't work coming off the season where you had 10 wins for the first time since 2016. So obviously something that this staff is doing works. And if I was to say what has changed is the transfer portal. Jamie Robinson, everybody, came from South Carolina from the transfer portal. He was here for 2 years. 1-2, if I'm not mistaken. He didn't leave after his first year, is my point. And he came from the transfer portal. The Morlock kid, like James is talking about, has multiple years of eligibility left. Jaheim Bell has multiple years of eligibility left. A lot of the guys that we are bringing in from the transfer portal, I think there's one that has 1 year left, and that was the defensive end, Fisk. I think he only has 1 year left. Fine. One guy that has 1 year left. That's bringing in, not only bringing a senior player for the field, but you're bringing that into the locker room to help grow the locker room and these guys as well, because that's very important with the young guys that are in there, like Pat Payton. Look how well Pat Payton's doing because of bringing in the Jared Verse, having the D-Mac that's there. There's guys there to uplift him and teach him quicker than what he would be doing on his own if it was just him and another high school guy that came in. So here's my thing. I'm not going to sit here and say that the transfer portal can't win or help you win national titles when 8 of your transfer portal guys ended up all ACC players for this previous year. They were all transfer players, but they all made all ACC teams. So you're not going to sit here and tell me that the guys from the transfer portal didn't help us, because everybody loves Michael Pittman. Everybody loves Jared Verse. Everybody loves all of these guys we're talking about, and they were transfers. They weren't who we recruited out of high school. They were transfers. So when you sit there and say that we're not going to – this isn't going to last, it's not something that will sustain the ability to win championships in the future, blah, 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 we can't say that when we don't know where this is going to go. I do believe that 2024 is going to be the year that, and it'll be the best recruiting year that Mike Norvell has put in at Florida State in the high school rankings so far in his era. But I do believe that you still pull in the transfer guys that you want to pull in, regardless of how good your high school ranking is. If you have need for defensive ends, defensive tackles, or a quarterback, or wide receivers, whatever the position is, and there's a guy that's in the transfer portal that is an immediate impact on your team at that position, you're going to go get him. I don't care what you recruited. And it's crazy to think that guys out of high school are going to come in year one and be an impact to your team. That's not how this works. Most true freshmen come in and sit 1 to 2 years before they are an impact on your team. Guys, there is a huge jump between high school to college. It is so big. I guess you would have to have played the sport to really understand what the difference is, because it is huge. It's not small. There is very, very few players and athletes in this world, let alone this country, that can walk in day one on a college field and make an instant impact. Very few. Are there some? Yes, but there are very few. There are a lot of men, grown-ass men, on this field playing this game in the college era that you want a high school kid to jump in and do the same thing with. It's not going to happen. So, yes, it's great to have a great high school recruiting class. Absolutely agree that it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the transfer portal can't do the exact same thing when these guys have 2, 3, 4 years left of eligibility. You're basically getting a guy after his true freshman year or his redshirt freshman year. Oh, wow, he's going to be a redshirt sophomore this year. Whoop-de-doo. He's got 3 years, 4 years of eligibility left. What's the problem? So I say that because everybody is harping on Coach Norvell for doing better in the transfer portal than he's doing in the high school rankings. I also can't say that he's doing better in the transfer portal than he's doing in the high school rankings other than the numbers that someone else is giving it. Only because 247 or Rivals says his portal ranking is better than his high school ranking doesn't mean that those players out of the portal are a better fit than the players he got out of high school. I don't look at the numbers as much as just like the kid that came from South Carolina today. He said what was really cool is that Coach Norvell told me I'm not only right as far as the football position as the football player, but I'm the right person to come in. I have the right mentality. I have the right ability. I have the right knowledge to make the locker room a better place just as much as I do the football field. Norvell is not going after just their talent on the field. He's not going after just what they can do on the field. He is like literally nitpicking the type of person that they are. How they hold themselves, how they represent themselves. That is a very big key factor into what Norvell wants out of these athletes. It's not just their ability on the field. So I think where we might see a ranking of 20 in the high school ranking class, Norvell sees number 2 or 3 because of the potential of what he can do with them. Norvell looks at them like most men look at a car. It ain't about what it looks like right now. It's about how I can make it look later, what I can develop it into, what mods I can add on to it to make it the best car on the showroom floor. That's how I think Norvell looks at the guys that he brings in. Same way with coaches. I don't think everybody likes who he's always brought on as coaches. And I had someone tell me tonight, why are we not firing Fuller and getting a real defensive coordinator? Well, y'all love using numbers on everything besides the defense, and I don't know why. You're not happy with the ranking that we got from high school recruiting. You're happy with the portal ranking that we got, but you don't believe the numbers that tells you had a top 15 defense from the same people that are putting those numbers in for everything else. So it's when it fits your narrative that you believe it's okay to say, well, no, I don't care what their numbers say. We didn't have a top 15 defense when the numbers indicate that you did. All around, I guess. At one point, we were a top 15 defense. What we ended up
top 15. I'm looking at it right now.
So you believe all the other numbers that these same people are putting out, but you don't believe that one. I'm confused. I really don't understand your merit behind your argument when you trust the numbers that they're putting out on everything else except for this one because you don't like Fuller for whatever reason. Look, college football, whether you like it or not, has changed a lot since the 90s. A whole lot. It's completely different.
Can I give you some perspective?
Sure.
And so this is only the third. This only counts the 13. So 13 games. Ohio State played, 13 games.
Yes, sir.
Ohio State gave up 31 touchdowns, offensive touchdowns. Florida State gave up 32. Would you trade the defensive coordinator? But I guarantee you, if I told you we had the opportunity to get Ohio State's DC, everybody would say, yeah, go get him. It's one touchdown difference. Wisconsin, Jim Leonard. Everybody loves Jim Leonard. They're like, go get Jim, bring Jim here, right? 32 touchdowns that Wisconsin gave up. Now Illinois' DC is amazing. There are upgrades, but like it's a crapshoot. Like again, I think we talked about on it. Like Alex Grinch, phenomenal defensive mind 5 years ago. Everybody wants him fired at USC right now. Jimmy Lake, phenomenal defensive mind at Washington. Now everybody wants him gone. Like it's just because you shift and move. The defense has made exponential jumps every year. And when you look at the pieces that, like you were talking about, what Mike Norvell's put, you're getting more pass rushers. You're getting better in the secondary with your corners and your safeties. You got some pieces on the D tackle that came back. So to be honest with you, you couldn't even really recruit to the level that you wanted. And the stereotype that Fuller can't recruit. When you look at what Deuce said, Fuller was critical. Fisk, Fuller was critical. Big time aspects into those recruitments were with your defensive coordinator. But now you've got you're loaded on defense, and you're for the first time in quite some time. And then what happens is just he's an easy target because he didn't have the glowing resume that everybody else wanted. I think if you looked at it at the four guys who Mike was rumored to bring in, this would have been the fourth guy. He's not Dan Lanning. He's not I forgot the defensive coordinator now currently for the co-DC for Georgia now. And it was somebody else that they were talking about bringing in, but he's done a really good job. So I don't get it.
There was a question that Gene Ferrari said. He said, yeah, but they are in different conferences. If we were in that conference, do you believe we would have the same numbers? If we were in the Big Ten, I think we have better numbers.
Yeah.
I think we're better.
We didn't lose. We lost to we lost to North Carolina State because offensively we could not score a touchdown.
We were shut down for 2 quarters.
We lost, like they scored one offensive touchdown against North Carolina State. Clemson, we didn't put up enough offense. And yes, we should have like that, whatever they call it, the middle 8 or whatever the hell is that they just made up. Like I hate that, but like bottom line is that sucked. I'm with you. Wake Forest, we had very little offensive productivity in the first half. We had an explosion on offense in the second half, and our defense literally held them to 10 points. First drive and the last drive were the times that they scored. I'd argue that when Mike Norvell's conservatism in that 3-game stretch had more to do with conservatism and liberalism at the worst possible times. And what I mean by that is, again, I no critique, Mike. I like you. That's just clear. But damn it, can we stop going for it on 4th down inside of our own 40? Like just give our defense some time to breathe until you have a badass line that can get the 1 to 2 yards. So I'm with you. But like, I'd argue that our offense did not bail out. To quote, everybody loves quotes. They love quoting the dead men. The old man used to say, a good defense will win you 8 games. The offense will have to bail them out 4. It's impossible to play at that high of a level every week and not be bailed out. Like you have to have that. And I think Fuller is the defensive coordinator that will match. Because the other thing too is what HCs have to do. You don't just find the best defensive coordinator. you find the best defensive coordinator that matches what it is that you do offensively. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. This ain't Madden. You don't just pick random pieces and then a computer generated makes it work.
I completely agree. The last thing that we're going to bring up tonight, and if you've been watching this show previous to this, there was an actual episode dedicated to this subject alone, about Jared Verse. Everyone's wondering if Jared Verse is coming back to Florida State or if he's going to the NFL. I can tell you there is one person, possibly two, his mother, but there is definitely one person that knows what Jared Verse is going to do for a 100% fact, and that is Jared Verse. But if you want our prediction, which it has been and is still the same, that Jared Verse will be back for the 2023 season at Florida State. We have both said that. We are continuing to say that we believe Jared Verse will be here for the 2023 season. If y'all want James to say it, he will say it for you. He just said it a minute ago. He believes that Jared Verse will be back for the 2023 season. Am I correct, James? You said that, yes?
Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Okay. So what it means for Jared Verse to come back to Florida State, obviously depth is huge. You have a monster coming back at defensive end. He has got the ability to become a very, very good defensive end here at Florida State. He's already good. He could become great with one more year. I think he needs one more year of develop. I think he needs to develop another year. I think he would be even better than what he was this year. He didn't play great against Oklahoma. It wasn't a great performance by him, but if you go back and watch, I will say that the referees were equal on both sides and let these kids play because there were some crazy holds on Jared Verse and others, but definitely on Jared that were not called. That on a regular season game with ACC refs, those are going to get called. They didn't call them in the bowl game, but Jared Verse did not have a great game against Oklahoma. But guess what? Our defense did good enough for our offense to outscore them and win the ball game, as James was talking about a minute ago. We've got about 8 minutes left on this episode, and James, there's someone that said, "Say it, James." They want to hear you say Jared Verse is coming back.
You're not gonna get me because you guys use this stuff against me, man. But no, I truly believe. I think Jared's gonna come back. That's just my gut feeling. If he doesn't, I get it.
Yeah,
but I do believe he comes back.
I do too. I believe that he comes back. I think he does have mock drafts that show him going in the first and second round, but he also has mock drafts showing him going in the sixth and seventh round. Do I think he would fall to the sixth or seventh round? No. Do I think he could fall to the third, fourth round? Yes. I think that's possible just because I think that this year is going to go after a lot of offensive linemen and a lot of offensive key players. I think the defense is going to be a little bit lax this year because it was so heavy last year, which I've told you all about this. But the question is what is he waiting on? He's building the suspense so everybody continues to talk about him. Because the moment that Jared Verse tells you and tells everyone that he's either going or he's staying, for about 3 days after that, his name's not continued to be said as much as it is right now. Right now, he's playing a business game, which is very smart. I love that he's doing it. Every day that goes by that we don't know for a fact that he's staying at Florida State or going to the NFL, everyone keeps to continue to say it. Is Jared Verse coming or is Jared Verse going? Is Jared Verse staying or is Jared Verse going to the NFL? The more that the more amount of time that he doesn't tell us what he's doing, the more time that his name comes up in all of these shows. Not just our show, but everyone's show. Everyone keeps saying, well, Jared Verse still hasn't made his final decision. He hasn't made it permanent. We don't know what he's doing, but we think he's going to do this. We think he's going to do that. And we continue to talk about Jared Verse. Just like the young man that came from South Carolina this weekend, or over this past couple of days, said that one of the first people that he met was Jared Verse in the weight room. Jared Verse is actively in Tallahassee at the weight room right now. Well, not now, but today. So his name.
You got some hope.
Yes.
We will know before January 16th.
Yes.
That is the deadline to declare. So
Yes.
we'll know before that.
Exactly. So, I told everybody I thought it'd be really cool if he did it on the 5th because he's number 5 on the team. I just thought that was cool. Everything that I think about when it comes to these guys, these athletes, is business. The reason I say that is because it's marketing. I think also marketing would be you tell everybody on the 5th because you're number 5. But maybe he wants us to talk about him until the 16th. I don't know. I don't really care other than the fact if he stays, I'm absolutely excited for it. If he goes to the NFL, I'm excited for him because I want him to make it to the next level and I want him to do great things. Fabo is coming back. He's already announced it. He's 100% coming back. Jamie has declared for the NFL draft. Pokey Wilson has declared for the NFL draft. Trey Benson has said he is coming back months ago or a month ago. Trey Benson is 100% coming back. Jordan Travis is 100% coming back. Johnny Wilson hasn't stated that he's coming back, but I'm willing to bet he's coming back almost 100%. Any other key players that y'all were asking about? I'm trying to go through them as y'all are writing. But for the most part, you've got a huge amount of your product coming back for the 23 season. Jamie decided to move on and go to the NFL because if he stayed, he probably couldn't help his NFL stock that much if he stayed and balled out. He is where he's at. He is what he is as a player, and this is just as good a time to leave as any. So he declared for the draft. I completely respect his decision, and I also think he's correct, which we had said that before. I think Jamie is what Jamie is, and he's going to be where he's going to be in the draft, regardless if it's this year or next year. Jared Verse can actually come back and become better and get a higher draft grade than what he's got. And I truly believe that because I think he could be a number 1 draft pick with a little bit more work. And I think that's what he's going to come back for. He wants to be that number 1 guy. He's not big on being number 2 or anything less. He likes being number 1 at what he does. So with that, James, we got about 3 minutes left. Let everybody know where they can follow you, and then I'm going to end this thing, and we'll see y'all again Monday. I'll do some more videos in between then, but we'll see y'all Monday after James lets y'all know what he's got. I got a couple more things, and we'll go from there. James, let them know where they can find you.
At Big Game James _36 on Twitter and Instagram. At Sports Den _live on Twitter and Instagram. Check out the YouTubes. It's James Coleman on YouTube, and then there's also Den Media Group. If you look up Den Media Group, you'll see the shows Big Games BS, Sports Den, and we'll have some new shows coming here, hopefully within the next week or two. So just stay tuned to that. Appreciate everybody. Need to get that thing over 2,000 subscribers. All right, y'all have a nice one.
Appreciate it, James. Well, everyone, we had an eventful night. As always, the co-host James Coleman does a great job as he always does. Do I believe we get Edmond? Yes, I do believe that we're his top choice. I do believe he's a decent fit here at Florida State, and I do think it's very potential that we get Edmond. Right now, I'd say we're leading that recruitment. I think we do get him. Exactly what ML 1219 just said. Watch his interview. You believe he's coming? I 100% agree. I think he'll be here. I think he wants to be a Knoll. I don't think that's much of a prediction. I really believe this is where he lands. I want to thank everyone for supporting Spear Addicts by Southline Sports Network. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you hit the bell so when we go live, you notice. I hope everyone has a good rest of your evening. Hope you have a good night. Hope you have a good morning tomorrow and the rest of your work week, which is one more day for most of us. Y'all have a good one, and go Noles.